happened during the flood. And this is right near the end of the flood. So you have intense activity going on this far into the flood, documented right here in this example. And there are close to 300 geos that have been identified in the world's oceans. There are about 2 of them in the Pacific, 200 of them in the Pacific Ocean, 8 in the North Atlantic, 43 in the South Atlantic, 28 in the Indian Ocean, 6 in the ocean around Antarctica, and even a couple in the Mediterranean Sea. And this image is of the Bear Seamount off the coast of Massachusetts. And its summit is about 3,000 feet, more than almost 3,500 feet below sea level. So, and it formed much earlier in the flood. Well, back in the Mesozoic, and it's in some of the deepest part of the Atlantic Ocean today. All right, here's some more examples of geos from the Pacific. And most of these, their tops are about 1,000 to 1,500 feet below sea level. So, so the geos then affirm the reality of ferocious tsunamis during the flood. And the fact that, and it also affirms that the ocean basins, the ocean floor was shallower relative to the continent surface during the flood than these ocean basins are today. And so that implies substantial water depths over the continents. When the ocean bottom is elevated and the ocean volume stays the same, that's going to push a lot of water up over the continents. And at the end of the flood, the ocean, the fact that these geos are now 1,000 feet or more below sea level indicates that at the end of the flood, ocean basins deepened considerably, allowing water on the continents to drain back into the ocean basins. So these geos are important indicators of that, of those dynamics. Specific objectives of this research, so I'm going to describe. One goal was to explore the effects of topography and of the continents and migration of the continental blocks during the flood. In the context of a numerical model for large-scale erosion, transport, and sedimentation processes that operated during the flood. Another objective of this work that I'll describe briefly is to evaluate a mechanism for the erosional discontinuities between the megasequences. So this is, as far as I know, the first attempt to come up with a mechanism for how the megasequences were formed. These large packets of sediments we see on the continents, 6 of them that are separated by global scale erosional unconformities. How in the world how did all of that process happen? Well, I believe it's explainable in terms of the tsunamis and some abrupt changes in the height of the sea bottom. Okay. All right. So an overview of the numerical model. The basic code itself was one back in the early 1990s, and it's one that solves what are called the shallow water equations on the surface of a rotating sphere. And so this was part of my regular work at Los Alamos. I developed this code. It uses the shallow water approximation, which treats water on the Earth's surface as a single vertical layer, but with variable bottom height. So that basically transforms a 3D, what normally would be a 3D problem, into a 2D problem. So we've got only one layer of water with a variable bottom height. And so we can represent the ocean that way. It assumes that the dominant means for sediment transport during the flood was by turbulent, rapidly flowing water. And so we've added into that original model the equations for open channel turbulent flow, which is commonly used by engineers to model flow in river channels, man-made channels, and it can even model flow over the free surface of the earth. And that's used to treat the suspension, transport, and deposition of sediment. And it's moderately sophisticated. This model that I have implemented allows multiple sediment classes to be tracked. So I track currently 3 classes, fine sand, medium sand, and coarse sand. And so I'm able, if I want to, it's a lot of work, to dump out all of this data and try to understand how each kind of sediment, is distributed in the course of this, in the course of the history of this model. So if I wanted to, I could look at where large sand layers ought to occur on the continents as a result. But that's remains for some future work. Okay, now as far as erosion is concerned, cavitation is assumed to be the dominant process responsible for degradation of bedrock, as well as for the erosion of already deposited sediment. So although there are other mechanisms